Recording history. The history of recording technology. Before the phonograph, there was sound recording before the phonograph, but not sound reproduction. In 1856 or 57, years before the invention of the phonograph, French inventor Léon Scott demonstrated the phonoautograph system for recording sounds. It used a diaphragm sensitive enough to respond to strong sound waves, attached to a fine stylus, which pressed against a moving glass cylinder. The glass cylinder was coated with black carbon and rotated, recording sound as a wavering line. In April of 1877, a few months before Edison's invention, Frenchman Charles Cros wrote a description of a machine that he said could record and reproduce sounds. Although he failed to patent or demonstrate the device, he deserves credit for the insight that the phonograph's recording process could be modified to play back sounds. Edison's invention of the phonograph. In July of 1877, Edison filed his first patent in Great Britain on a sound recording and reproduction of sound. A full specification for the phonograph was filed in April 1878. In the meantime, his associate John Croce constructed a device that looked much like the phonoaudiograph, but with a sheet of heavy tin foil wrapped around the cylinder. By cranking the handle and shouting into the horn, the machine recorded the voice in the form of indentation in a spiral path on the tin foil. But putting the stylus back into the groove at the beginning of the recording and cranking the handle, the machine reproduced the voice. During 1878, the first 600 or so tinfoil phonographs were made by several small machine shops at Edison's request. These were distributed to demonstrate the principle of phonography. A German company licensed the patent rights and attempt to build a talking doll. The doll did not work very well, and most were returned by unhappy customers. Following this, Edison moved on to work on other projects and paid little attention to the phonograph for almost a decade. Edison's first rivals. Alexander Graham Bell, his cousin Chichester Bell, and assistants including Charles S. Tainter, in 1880 began investigating the nature of sound in a new laboratory in Washington, D.C. the next year. The next year, they developed what would become known as the graphophone, an improved form of the phonograph. The main difference between phonograph and graphophone, at least at first, was that the graphophone used wax as the recording medium rather than tin foil, and the recordings were cut or chiseled into the wax rather than being embossed. In fact, the graphophone deposited with the Smithsonian appears to have been an Edison phonograph or a copy, with the grooves in the cylinder filled with the wax rather than wrapped with tin foil. The inventors delayed several years and then filed for patents, which were granted in 1886. By this time, they had developed a replaceable recording medium consisting of a cardboard tube with a thick coating of wax. Representatives of the firm set up to commercialize the graphophone approached Edison about a cooperative agreement as early as 1885. Instead, the inventor returned to his work in 1886 and had made numerous patent applications for phonograph improvements by 1888. Both the graphophone and the phonograph were being marketed by 1890 as office dictation machines. Neither was generating much money, but local distributors discovered a more lucrative way to use the machines as public amusements. Coin-operated record players soon became common in public arcades. In response, Edison continued to make improvements to the phonograph, began working toward an inexpensive home record player, and went into the business of making records. Bell, Tainter, and Company faded from view, but other inventors improved the graphophone. There was numerous problems with compatibility in the 1890s and early 1900s. Phonograph and graphophone records were not interchangeable. Both companies introduced variation on the basic technology that could not be played on older machines. Also, new inventors were springing up to try to cash in. Some built their players according to phonograph or graphophone standards, but others did not. Recording history has not yet come to an end. Stay tuned. To be continued.